Sziasztok. Hello, everyone. Good to see you here again for another edition of HOTS and its view of the world around Europe and a little bit beyond. Today, we're going to have two talks with really great colleagues from Bulgaria and Turkey. And it's very personal. This brings me really good memories. These two countries are always kind of like in line for me because the first time I went to Turkey was through Bulgaria when I was a kid in the 80s. So it was a very long time ago and a very long ride, but it was really great to arrive to Istanbul through Bulgaria. So I'm really happy that you guys are here together, but we're going to talk about Turkey and Bulgaria separately. So yeah, I'd like to introduce you first to Duygu. Hello. She's here from Turkey, and she's first and foremost maybe a music ethnomusicologist, and she's also the music editor of Marie Claire Turkey. She's an independent consultant for festivals and all kinds of music industry players and actors, because she's been in this industry for a very long time in very different roles. And but I would like her to also say a few things about her past, present, and later the future, but just to tell us a little about yourself and how you ended up where you are right now.
Of course. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's really a pleasure. It's my first time in your city. I loved it. I know a lot of its history actually with music and politics, but it's just been a great experience coming here and, you know, reliving it. I'm Duygu from Turkey, and that was a nice introduction. Thank you. I'm a bookings and programming consultant for multiple clients. I work independently. I'm the digital music editor of Marie Claire Turkey and an ethnomusicologist myself. I studied politics, international relations actually. But music has always been around, so I changed fields, and then I started studying music because I felt an imposter, really. So I was like, I have to study music, and I have to know the basics and kitchen of it. So I found myself in first radio. I've worked for a radio company and had my own show for 3 years. And then I started doing bookings and programmings in major promoters of Turkey. So it was BKM first, and then Zorlu Performing Arts Center, which had 5 stages. And then later for Positive Music. But in the meantime, I tried many other roles. I've been a music journalist also. I'm occasionally writing for a few online platforms. I started selling instruments, and then here we are, 10 years later, basically. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you very much. So being a music ethnologist, did I say it right? Ethnomusicologist. Oh my God, sorry. Ethnomusicologist, yeah. We're going to learn this word by the end, at least I will. So I'd like to ask you a little bit about this, because most people I know in the music industry come either as a musician, and then they end up in different roles in the music industry, past or beyond their being a musician. And so this academic background is certainly not very common, I think, and it's a bit different. And it goes a lot more deeper and wider than what and how music is being looked at or understood in today's world as an entertainment mainly, I guess. And it would be just good to hear from you, like, how do you see music and where you are in this?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think the first thing would be defining ethnomusicology, because people think that you only work with ethnic musics, which is completely wrong about this field. It's basically popular musics that is anything except classical art music, because musicology is on that field working for classical music, and then here we are, ethnomusicologists, working with jazz, hip-hop, metal, Norse music. I mean, that's what I'm doing basically. And then all the popular musics that you know of, including obviously musics of other cultures, each culture, other countries, without looking down, you know, from, Western gaze. So that's basically what we're doing. And I wanted to study this because I was always curious about what's behind this music. What's the story of this culture? Like, what are they doing? Why did you write these lyrics? Like, I'm inclined to know. And I mean, I've played some instruments myself as well, but for me, it was theory, yes, but also the social, political, economic, and cultural context behind everything. So it helped me really understand what really is and where we are in knowing things. But yeah, for me, this industry, it's not entertainment. And I will always be against this idea of calling this industry entertainment. This is culture and arts, and I'm a huge defendant of it. It has always been culture and arts. It's cultural and creative industries, we say. So my thesis was actually about this as well. Music is not entertainment, it's culture and arts. It's not to entertain people, because we don't always dance and party and rave when we're listening to music. It's a whole experience you go through from your birth until you die. So that's basically it.
Yeah, amazing. And how do you see this landscape of culture and music in Turkey today? If you look at the charts, let's say, or the concert, the events, how do you see what's happening in Turkey? Because it looks like a huge, exotic country for me from the outside. I don't know much Turkish artists or the music scene. So guide me or us a little bit in what's happening in Turkey right now.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. It's a massive market. Inhabited by over 85 million people, so it's huge. The music scene, the industry and business part of it is consolidated in Istanbul. I'll say it's the main hub. But the culture is so old. It's coming from all the actually like cultures that have spent, a lifespan in Anatolia, in the outskirts of Anatolia, in the Mediterranean. So it's a huge mix of cultures. Currently, it's really very much alive, with pop music obviously dominating the industry. Turks love, we're still very much dominated by Turkish lyrics, so it's in our own language, so it's pop and hip-hop. Interestingly, rap music is super popular. It's almost like dominating the scene right now. And we have arabesque, which is the makam and all those microtones that you hear coming from the Swana and Wana region as well. We don't say Middle East, it's a colonial term, so we use Swana or Wana instead. And it's basically dominated by these genres, but there's huge indie alternative rock scene, and metal fans are so loyal. It's amazing. It's always a sold out show when you do a metal concert. I mean, Iron Maiden sells out in no seconds. It's huge because they don't have much concerts, but we're seeing a trend now. And electronic music.
I was looking at, I think, sound charts and just looking at the top 20 artists that are trending or the most listened today. All of them were Turkish, like no other country. It's very similar for Bulgaria as well, actually. And in Hungary, I think in the top 20 you have a lot of Americans, Koreans, just a lot of other countries. Well, mainly Americans though, and Hungarians, but it feels like it's a very strong domestic market, and you relate to your music as it's a cultural representation very, very strongly. And I also saw a lot of older artists from the 70s, 80s. So it seems like they're still very heavily listened to now.
Yeah, I mean, there's this revival right now that's happening. We also owe it to Altıngün in a way. You've probably heard of Altıngün, although they're not Turkish. They kind of contributed into this revival. So 70s music is coming back because it's kind of a global trend where you see there's a trend for there's a hunger and thirst for nostalgia right now. So people are looking at the old musics, what's been happening in the roots of it actually. So like all the traditional musics, türkü, Turkish art music, Türk sanat müziği we say, they're looking in that direction, and they see that in the 70s people have actually done this. So they dug out those songs, like old songs, and turned them into psychedelic rock, alternative tunes. So we see that revival. I mean, recently Tame Impala, released a new album, and he said he had been listening to Barış Manço. He said Barış Manço, close. So he actually had been listening to him for a while, which is also, interesting, because you see those names from the 70s, like the old dudes, getting onto charts again, and they're the ones who made us. So it's really good, and you see Gaye Su Akyol touring, you see Lalalar touring, there's Jacuzzi, Dark Wave, Synth Wave, those kind of. Also, regarding the domestic thing, I wanted to add, it's because we don't have an export strategy in Turkey. We don't have an export office. And it's also the cultural policies as well, that we're kind of a closed market. Because your music cannot really reach out to European and other audiences. So you start doing it in your language, which is which is the most comfortable language for you.
Just regarding this, I also wanted to ask you about the diaspora and the large number of Turkish not settlements, but the Turkish population outside of Turkey. And don't you see that kind of like spilling over to the local music scene, and Turkish and local musicians working together, but the Turkish element is coming in? Do you see that happening maybe?
Yeah, I mean, diaspora has always been some sort of a flag bearer for us. In the old times, in 60s, 50s, for example, when there was a lot of political tension in the country, because there had been so many coups d'etats, etc., in the country with every decade. So people had been also immigrating to the countries that they could live in because of the political pressure. So you also see some like revolutionary songs getting released in record stores in Germany, France, Netherlands. So there's also that. But for now, for example, when I'm booking a concert in Europe, if it's a Turkish artist, again, it's the Turkish diaspora listening to them. But again, there's that kind of inclination for the diaspora to listen to Turkish pop, arabesque, and rap music. So it's almost like they've been living inside Turkey in closed areas for a certain type of music. So it's the third wave generation, we say now, the ones who are my age or younger than me, who are immigrating, studying in Europe, in America, in Asia, wherever, who are listening to these types of genres, indie, alternative, rock, metal, dark wave, all those subgenres as well, and electronic music. So there's like a different kind of a trend with the elder generation of diaspora and, the third wave.
And the younger generation, even rappers, get inspired or take inspiration from the older generation and the older songs from the 60s, 70s. Is that a thing? Or they completely, do their modern take on music and whatever they listen on the radios and on the internet?
I mean, rap is actually how it started in Turkey. We imported it from Germany. And it was because of the racism in Germany towards Turks living there that cartel, Islamic force, started to build their own communities. And they learned rap music from the children of the American soldiers who were in the NATO bases in Germany. So that's how actually rap kind of started and came to Turkey. It came from Germany. But
it has really old roots, kind of like 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was around like 80s, late 70s that this has started. And it actually like helped Turkish youth from being criminalized because they were invested in music and rap, which was, I mean, goosebumps for me still. That's how, through culture, they were saved. So that's how it started. But now, I mean, in Turkish rap, like mainstream and contemporary rap, we don't really see that. Obviously, there's always a reference because there's so much respect there. But yeah, rap does not really get its influence from diaspora or those elder generations right now, because it's more capitalized now. So it's almost apolitical. And I dare say that it has taken the space of pop music, which is responsible of numbing the audience and Turkish people from thinking about politics or social status we have, or all the, pardon my language, shit that's happening inside the country. So I think like there's that kind of a trend over there.
Interesting. We are experiencing the opposite in a way, that how the usually apolitical music scene is becoming more political and more vocal about how things are going on.
But then again, you realize, obviously, with rap coming in Turkey, and you see the, for example, backing tracks or samplings coming from arabesque also. Arabesque used to be, we always have this differentiation in Turkey, West and East, and we're always in between. We don't know where we belong. Are we East? Are we Middle East? Are we Europe? But yes. So there's always that tendency. So you can actually see that those Eastern influences kind of getting into rap right now, and that's also because of the socio-political and economic conjuncture we have. So now it's like rich and poor, and there's no middle class. So you see that in music as well, and you see that in how they actually produce music too. That makes sense.
Okay, so you said that you don't have an export office and you don't really export your music. What about importing, and what about introducing new artists to Turkey, even on a small scale? So I'll try to segue into how a small or medium or big Hungarian artist who feels like they would love to tour in Turkey and go there and set roots. What do you think could be a realistic goal to do? And do you have any examples that it happened before with any other band?
First of all, regarding export, I'll just make a little explanation there. We don't have an export office, but we work as independent people, managers, booking agents, etc. And we work by ourselves, also musicians too. So it's an individual effort with obviously no governmental support. But hopefully there will be an export office soon. Like we're kind of working towards that direction, like me and some other professionals in the industry, we're backing this idea, and we're trying our best to, export as many musicians as possible to, I'll say the West, because it's always the direction in Turkey, but wherever possible, actually. And regarding import, I mean, I've been a promoter. I worked for promoter venue companies, and for me and for us, and I mean, first you have to start really small. I think that's the beginning. Like, if you're not like a band that could sell out 4,000 tickets in like 5 minutes, obviously, like there are some other ways that should be followed. But like, I think going into grassroots and some organic audience would be the best way. And I see that this happens on social media. Like, I also discover artists from TikTok. We discovered Mitski on TikTok, and we brought her, and she sold 3,000. And people were crying at the entrance, trying to get inside the building. So it happens. Like Molchat Doma, we discovered from TikTok, which was really interesting. So there's that. TikTok for now in Turkey is the viral hit maker. So you actually see the trends there, and because there's so many users in Turkey who are on TikTok. I don't have my own TikTok account yet. I'm still resisting, but social media really helps. Facebook is dead, by the way, for music for Turkey. It's not working. But Instagram and TikTok, I would recommend that you should have a great digital presence in order to, get into the hearts of Turkish people. And it's always collaborating. I mean, Turks love their culture to be seen and heard and played. So whenever you try to speak, I don't know, one Turkish word, people would die for you. Like,
well, we have a lot of similar words.
It melts our hearts, you know. So whenever there's an artist trying to somehow get into the Turkish market and says some, I don't know, sings in Turkish, like, do you know Ressa Safa Park? She's a Norwegian singer-songwriter. She recently, like, I think it was kind of my previous venue that made her famous, but like we discovered her, my manager discovered her, and he was like, this is the big thing, Duygu, like we're booking her. So I booked her. She came, 700. I think the tickets were around like 600. And then she was like, teşekkür ederim. And then people were like, oh my God. They just went all crazy. And she realized there was like some Turkish love there. So she started playing on the Turkish audience, which really worked out because she was like, I'm interested in Turkish songs. So she sings a Turkish song. It's a viral, it's hit. So she comes 2 more times, 3 more times. So then she became some sort of a star, Norwegian star. She also played in Ragnarok, by the way, in Netflix, if you've seen it. So that's her. But yeah, so Engin, for example, from Germany, obviously when you play a Turkish song, when you get into Turkish heart, they really come for you. And the audience in Turkey, I think that's really different than in other places, other countries. Turks are very attentive on songs and musicians. If they come to a concert, they know what they're gonna hear. They're expecting something, and it's not like they're just there idly standing, you know? So there's that conscious. That's why I think it's really important to have an organic kind of a audience building strategy. And another example of glass beams, I was actually the first one to book them to the venue I was working for in Turkey. And they did this geo ad targeting on Instagram after their first visit, because it was like 300 tickets at first. Their second concert, 3,000 tickets sold out. How? Social media marketing. I mean, they were just all over our Instagram pages in Turkey.
So they made specifically, like content specifically for Turkey and targeted ads for Turkey?
No content specific, actually. It was just them playing in the studio, but their video was, it was everywhere. Like in my social media account, on my Instagram, on my partner's Instagram, on my friend's Instagram, and we're like, I don't know why. What's this glass beams that keep appearing, you know? But they did that, you know, strategy, geotag thing, and it worked out. And like, I don't know, in 2 months' time, all the influencers were sharing glass beam songs on their reels and stories and shorts. And then, yeah, it's now, they sell around 3,000, 4,000 tickets, and I think it's only growing. So those are the ways I think I could say.
That's great. And which cities would you say are the most important ones for an unknown artist?
I think it's Istanbul. I mean, that's all you've got, actually. If you're not like giving a workshop and, I don't know, a masterclass or going into some sort of a musical trip with Turkish artists in another city, it's just difficult to get inside. Because although it's a thriving business and we have stadium concerts and we have sold out concerts, there's still the issue of money there because of the high inflation, which makes us very resilient. But again, as bookers, as promoters, we have to be really careful about the artists that we're going to choose. So obviously, we go into the guaranteed ways, and there's less room for adventurous programming. So if you're very like unknown, I'll say this is a difficult market for you. And you have to carve your own path and maybe in another geography before coming into Turkey, or you just really have to have a solid fan base. So I think first you have to be like really conscious, like self-aware and realistic on what you want and who your audience is. Like if you're like obsessed with Turkey, that's another thing. I will help you. But otherwise, try out some other cities, some other countries, and then come to Turkey so that the bookers can actually discover you. Another way for discovery is actually going into showcases. I know probably everyone says this, but for Turks, Turkish promoters, I'll say, there are like some certain showcases that we go to because we cannot afford going into all those niche and boutique showcases. I mean, I do boutique ones, but like the promoters in those great major venues, they go to Eurosonic, for example, to discover new acts. Or they go to Reeperbahn, although it's really difficult to get discovered in Reeperbahn, but it's still worth a shot, and it's always...
Can meet the people at least
it's
from the industry.
Good on your portfolio. I mean, I've played in Reeperbahn. That's huge. And also great escape. So, you know, showcase conferences like those, the major ones, although I don't always recommend musicians to do that. For Turkey, it's more into that way because... Again, like we try to guarantee our ticket sales.
And do you have events like that inside Turkey?
Unfortunately not. No showcase.
No music, and any kind of music, like music event where someone could meet the local bookers, labels, promoters.
Yeah, we don't have that too. I mean, we try to organize some, let's say, gatherings and networking events, but that's again like on very individual basis and with the efforts of institutions that want to do it specifically. But that's not like very common. We had Vitrin at Istanbul Jazz Festival. It's one of the oldest jazz festivals we've got in Turkey. And they had that program specifically designed to showcase Turkish musicians, but also networking opportunities for, you know, other actors that would come to Turkey. So then there would be some sort of a connection. But it's a work in progress, I'll say.
Interesting, because you have a huge industry and it's been quite big for a long time.
There the difference is we operate differently than in other countries because there's no cultural policy to support the music industry and in general culture and arts really. So we depend on private institutions, private corporations and sponsorships. We're really good at finding the money because that's basically what we do, but we don't get it from the government or from the ministry most of the time. It's only the municipalities or governmental institutions that have the money. But for all the major promoters and major venues, they belong to one sort of a corporation, because it's all privatized during the neoliberal politics of Thatcher and Reagan. So thanks to them, we're also privatized. So that's why we don't have these kind of social good, social work type of, you know, events, showcases, conferences. But we have obviously Istanbul Culture and Arts Foundation, for example, and all those major institutions, culture and arts venues and promoters, they're doing their best. It's just difficult.
And so what are the power dynamics on the private market? Like there are one or two big labels and they control most of the recordings, or how does that work?
Sync side, I'm not really familiar with, I've got to say, because I don't work in that part of the industry. But obviously we have major promoters. We have like 3-4 major promoters, BKM, Positive, İKSV, which is the Istanbul Culture and Arts Foundation, Zorlu, there's a new one, Pulse, Epiphony, so like I'll say it wouldn't go more than 10. So we have these major promoters working in 15 capacity venues, open air venues or stadiums. So they're the ones who were actually the, you know, giants of the industry. So for independent promoters, it's a bit difficult, or like, you know, but again, we have tons of festivals, not many venues, but again, they're like great, good quality venues. You have grassroots venues for all types of genres. So whatever you're looking for, you could find it in Istanbul. Obviously, without going big, it's difficult to get into the capital or Izmir or Antalya, but still we have other cities. And I try to, for example, book, if one artist is booked to Istanbul, we try to add Bursa or Ankara so that, there's some sort of a circulation there. So yeah, major like giant promoters and some booking. Obviously, I didn't mention Charmenko, and they're also, again, another big industry member. But yeah, it's basically like major promoters and venues we've got. And if you wanted to do a list, it wouldn't be super long. So it's actually really consolidated, but it also helps you, to kind of focus your energy in which direction you want to head towards.
And what about the seaside and the bigger cities on the sea, where there's a lot of tourism also besides Istanbul, and a lot of small festivals or bigger festivals around there?
Yeah, so music is in Turkey. Music doesn't really have a season, so it's like, set 24/7. You can find anything anywhere. Obviously, like we see some hotels, very luxury hotels, bringing Jennifer Lopez or Robbie Williams, but it's mostly for their own clients and customers. So the entry prices would be super, expensive. But there's also that kind of cultural tourism thing happening too in the southern Aegean, in Antalya, or like in the Aegean, like Mediterranean as well. But yeah, I mean, summer festivals, they're again in Istanbul. I mean, Istanbul is such a huge city that there are festivals everywhere. But obviously, you will find some good festivals in the coastal cities as well. But it's not very much for the international gigs. So you don't really see a lot of, musicians, international foreigners coming to those cities if you're not a DJ. Yeah. If you're a DJ, that changes the, because there are beach clubs and resorts, etc. So we have a lot of like DJs coming into beach clubs and hotels and the festivals there, because it's relatively
for smaller
cheaper.
Live acts, electronic live acts, would that be relevant, you think?
Not really. I mean, I'm being really honest here. So, yeah, I mean, for that also you have to go underground.
And how would you describe the club scene in Istanbul? You said there are a lot of grassroots venues, but do you have options from all sizes?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have some like great promoters, Generic Music, Beatgate, Klein, Isolate, who brings Solomon, for example, like who work with Solomon. So like a lot of huge names as well. Flex Anima, I see. So that's for like arena capacity concerts, but they also have some of them have their own venues too. So like from 300 to 1,000 to 4,000, yeah, maybe let's say like 3,000. You could see some mainstream electronic venues as well. Although like currently they're boycotting issues, Sonar Istanbul Festival is still active and happening. I was actually one of the bookers there a few years ago. So Sonar had always supported newcomers, and actually like that's what I recommended to electronic music artists all the time, especially if they're working in with visual arts as well. I'd say apply to Plus D, try to come to Sonar Festival, because that's how we actually gave platform to newcomers as well. And obviously you'll see some other festivals like Electronica. So there's some opportunities there. But the grassroots is different. It's like 300, 200 capacities, but you have a radio called NOH, N-O-H. It's really like underground, so founded on good basis. I think for electronic music, it's more possible to be able to come to Turkey, to Istanbul, when you're a newcomer, because there's always an interest in the electronic music community to discover new sounds and also like look elsewhere to find different inspirations, and they really support each other. But obviously budgets are really, really low, so you have to kind of work towards that.
Yeah, I think, a 200-300 capacity venue for a lot of unknown new acts is a great place to start already. So
Definitely. I mean, even 50, because you want your venue to be full when you're playing there. If only like 3 people are gonna show up at your gig for a 300 capacity venue, it's not gonna work. So as long as you can fill it up, it's good for you. So start with 50 and then go to 200 and 300 and try festivals, as many festivals as you can, and that's like kind of the way.
You mentioned TikTok is a very strong medium, of course, to penetrate the market. But what about, more traditional, even blogs or just other media companies that operate in the country? Do you think there's any that's still relevant and worth trying to, send them PR materials and work with them?
I mean, we have different mediums that are active. Obviously, printed press is nearly dead. We don't really have much printed press happening, but we have so mainstream as the terrestrial radios, for example, but also some independent radios too. And then you have the online platforms. That's actually where the game is, happening. So, but it's good PR for you, for sure. Like we have Play to Shoe, who's also active in Europe as well. One of their co-founders actually moved to Toulouse. So they're going to be active in Europe, starting from France. Like we have Dergi with an Y. So like different kind of online music magazines. Even at Marie Claire, like I try to write about music and we try to include as many musicians as we can, but to the online part of it. So obviously it's all digital, but those actors, I've actually made a list of, the mediums that I could use.
Because we're going to have this on record so people can,
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. So, like, for example, radio is very influential, but it's still an in-car listening experience. But since we have a lot of traffic in Istanbul,
traffic jams a lot of time.
It helps. Yeah. So whenever a new artist comes to me saying like which kind of a radio or medium I should aim for, I say Eksen. Like Eksen is your radio, but that's for like alternative indie rock metal music. Like we used to discover some musicians from Eksen. I booked Dead Letter, a punk band, amazing post-punk band. And I was like talking to the manager of the radio. So we were saying like, what should we do? Like, how are we going to promote this concert? And she was like, I've been playing Dead Letter at Eksen. So she says, I see the trend. It's gonna sell, So you can actually follow the statistics and that the audience is organic there. And we have Açık Radio, which is the platform for contemporary music and global music.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Açık. It means open radio, so it's open for everyone. The doors are open. It's very like beautiful and old and supports jazz, global musics, and your music could actually be heard there if you would be interested in contemporary music and jazz and other like global sounds. But also we have like some groups who are the mainstream ones, like Power Group, Carnival Media Group. But Carnival has jazz radios and it has hip hop radios also. So I'd say like go for the radios, but for the specific ones that would work on your music. And for like for social media. It's like Back on Stage is a huge online magazine. They do a lot of PR stuff as well, and also like they're an agency too. It's Bir Baba Indie, so it's like indie, but also all kinds of music too. Like you could see some Rosalia stuff, explained there as well. And yeah, you have Bant Mag, one of the oldest, but they're really good for indie, promoting indie and jazz, but like not contemporary, maybe contemporary, but not mainstream. So it's like on the niche side of things. And you have the Magger, Aposto, so those kind of online platforms. I mean, I could help out. Just come to me, and I'll give you some names if you need anything. It might be difficult to hear the Turkish ones right now. But yeah, also another thing to break through in Turkey is soap operas. I mean, we're the second biggest exporter of TV series after the US. So it's a huge market. I don't know how you could get inside. But if you're like played in, I don't know, Kızılcık Şerbeti, which is like the soapest of the soap opera, your music would be viral in Turkey.
What kind of music do they put on usually? I don't watch these, unfortunately.
I'll say popular arabesque-ish, but then we have a lot of TV series on Netflix, on Disney, because they have offices in Turkey as well, and also HBO. And like one of my friend actually got featured in a Netflix TV series, and we were like, what, 2 songs even, So you'll never know. And she's an amazing indie artist, like R&B-ish, which is not very popular in Turkey, R&B and urban music, I'll say. And it was in English, so it worked out for her, for example. So you'll never know, but that's a good way to kind of enter the market, because it's like a hidden gem. But the state also invests in it a lot, so it works. But yeah, I think that's basically it for the key mediums.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, Turkey is like such a huge domestic market, and you have a lot of cultural credit around the world in many areas of the music industry. So it sounds like in many ways, you have a lot more, a lot healthier industry than a lot of other European countries, let's say. And I was just trying to...
Could have been.
But I wanted to ask, like, how does it translate to the artists, let's say? So do the money finds them as well at the end, or it disappears everywhere?
That's trouble. I mean, we're recorded, so I have to be careful on what I say. But it's mostly musicians don't have social security even, because musicianship is not really a defined work title in the law. So if you're a musician, you're basically one of that taxi driver's niece. Is like, everyone says, oh, my niece is a musician. How? He's been playing the guitar for 2 weeks. Okay, so that's basically what a musician is in Turkey.
But what about copyrights? Are they not protected?
No, they are. Obviously, we have our own collecting societies and everything. Good way is TV series, again, like having featured in soundtracks and everything, but still the live market is ruling. So the way to earn money is actually to give concerts, to find the, stage and festival and get booked and earn your own money. And also like being a session musician always helps. Or, I don't know, a musician for stock production music, which might not be the best thing, but it's a good way to earn money as usual. But yeah, I mean, for copyrights, if you're on DSPs, it's just too difficult because Turkey is so cheap compared to like what you pay to Spotify or Apple Music or Deezer here. It's really cheap to be a subscriber in Turkey. It's like 3 times more expensive in Europe. So that's why it's really difficult for them to get the money from copyrights. It's just too little. So
the numbers are huge there compared to
it's incredible. I mean, be it bot farming or just organic listening. It's just you are listened to so many times. It's just it doesn't come it doesn't pay off in dollars or in Turkish liras in any way. If a Turkish musician is listened from Europe, they earn more money. But Spotify, I mean, obviously you know what's happening with Spotify. So there had been a huge deal in Turkey as well because they don't have an office in Turkey. So they're gonna come back. And they started changing some stuff, increase the prices of subscription a bit. I think we're still not there. But yeah, basically, musicians are not earning much and they don't have social security. So that's like a risky path. And like since my childhood, everyone recommends that I do music as a hobby because I wanted to be a vocalist and I sang jazz and I loved it. And people were like, but you're doing it as a hobby, right? Like not like a real profession because you're not going to earn any money. But we saw that in the pandemic times. I mean, we've seen it all together as in like all countries, but that's like what we've been going through for years as a country. I was just like, hi, welcome to the club. That's how we're doing actually. So it's just difficult.
Yeah. We also have a little bit of time. Do you guys, girls, have any questions, comments, anything that comes to mind that would like to discuss with the group?
You're not interested in Turkey?
No.
Well, I understand. But I've actually booked a Hungarian act a year ago to Babylon. Freaking disco. I love them. So maybe let me just tell you how I discovered them, and that might be a way for, you know,
Perfect.
to like an example. It was through a showcase, actually. I think the first time I saw them was in Athens Music Week. And then I was going to showcases every month in a different country. So that's actually like what I've done for a year. I was like in 10 countries, basically. But I did all the showcases so that I would discover new music. So that's actually how I saw them. And I was like, man, these are like so great, but they will not sell in Turkey. So like what to do? New band, they're not known. They have to have a digital presence, as I said. So like you have to have a kind of a base Turkish follower on your social media account, and your like chart metric numbers or your metadata is just really important for bookers to book you. Like I love the music, and like I saw those guys every month in a different showcase conference festival. So I was like, I just love listening to music. It's like, you know, I've been following them around. And obviously, I had the ability to be a little bit adventurous in my programming. So I developed this new concept for Babylon called Babylon Picks. Like we found it, obviously, as a team and everything. But I said, I want to bring the musicians that I discovered abroad to Babylon. But then how can I do it in a way that the Turkish audience that come to Turkey would be like, okay, so there's going to be this event series happening, and then whichever concert I go to, I know that I love it. So then we developed this concept, Babylon Picks, and we said, okay, we're going to bring new artists every month or like twice in every month. And then the audience would be well acquainted with the concept, this series, so they would come to discover. And then we put the ticket prices on a very low base so that everyone could cover it. And then we started boosting it on social media. Although, like I'd say it's an honest evaluation, I think it was a bit early for them to come to Istanbul, because I thought like maybe after we waited for, I don't know, 1 or 2 more years, they could have sold more tickets. But again, I was like too impatient because I love the guys. I was like, they're good. So I just brought them. And that night we had 2 gigs actually. First one was Immortal Onion from Poland. They're also great. And then afterwards you had Freaking Disco. And whoever came to that concert, they were like, we vibed, you know? So I think that there was a potential there, but then again, you have to be patient as bookers also, like, and you have to see how they grow. And like, no matter how many showcases you play in Europe, you may never be resonated in Turkey. Like sometimes this happens too. So you really have to target specific country that you're aiming towards. Also, what helped me was the idea of connecting to the Hungarian embassy and consulate. So this works out.
Are they active in Turkey or in Istanbul?
They are actually. I think it was 2 years ago that we celebrated the friendship of our countries. It was the 100 years of friendship between Hungary and Turkey last year. So because of that, the consulate actually said, we're going to support some cultural activities and we're giving funds to those who book Hungarian acts. So Jazz Boys was coming. We had like some different traditional stuff happening with the municipalities and everything. So I thought I could actually get the benefit of it. I couldn't, but it works. So having good connection with the embassy and, you know, consulates that have, you know, their missions in those countries that you're targeting really helps, because they can also recommend some acts, because they come to me sometimes, to us, the embassies or like the cultural attaches. They're like, we're thinking of promoting some acts, and like, do you want to do a festival together? Like, are you planning of bringing any you know, acts from our countries? So that's kind of a good way of collaborating, and because they give some financial support, it makes it easier for us to, you know, book acts. So I love it, you know, when you use it as cultural diplomacy, so that, you know, you can actually utilize bringing musicians over that you discover to your country.
Are you planning to work on maybe bringing some of the Turkish artists to showcases and festivals in Europe somewhere? Because it's a really great way for artists to meet each other and get to know each other, and maybe, you know, do something together, which is always a good segue into the other's country.
Actually, 2 weeks ago, there was a Turkish band who was here at Budapest Showcase Hub. It's called Jacuzzi, the Turkish word for jacuzzi.
Very different.
They're doing, as I said, dark wave, synth wave, and it's amazing. It's in Turkish, but it resonates so well. They were here showcasing, and I thought, I mean, we want more musicians to apply to showcases, especially in Eastern Europe, because I think we're kind of overlooking this geography, this region, when we're doing our like strategy planning and everything. But this is a great connection, and I think
the closest.
I mean, it is, but somehow we just don't see it. So I always like try to emphasize the importance of having great connections here, and also coming to play in so far in, for example, in our countries, like going, having tours, playing in like some tiny small clubs and, you know, venues. I mean, I always support musicians who are trying to, you know, apply to showcases outside, but I don't work with artists.
Yeah, I don't know about the local Turkish embassy in Hungary, but because our leaders are such big friends, I'm sure there's a really good connection between the two countries culturally as well. Yeah, anyone got inspired for a question? Yeah, two.
Hey. Thank you. So
Sorry, maybe.
Thank you. Is it long? Okay. So, I played in Turkey actually before. I played like 3 or 4 times in Ankara, and I'm not saying this as like just because it's a Turkish themed like thing, but like it was actually one of the best audiences that I've like ever played to. So because I did that, I was curious, like. I know that you were saying Istanbul a lot, but like, is there any other cities that you would recommend if I was to like think about building more of a presence in like Turkey than like other cities that I could play in maybe?
I mean, you could actually go for cities that have the metropolitan capacities. Obviously, Ankara's audience is one of the best, and for me it's the best because they're so conscious, and if they're paying for that concert, you know, they're gonna know the core of you, who you are, what's in your blood and everything. So in that way, they're amazing. Ankara, Izmir, I'll say Antalya too, because I think there is a possibility there too. For example, I booked gigs to Bursa, so Bursa is great. It's mostly with like municipalities and everything for me, but again, it's always great to like check what's happening around Istanbul. And I live in Muğla, for example, in the southern Aegean. There's not much happening there, but again, it's the coastal side, so there's always a possibility, and so many creatives are, for example, immigrating from Istanbul to other cities, so that's also somewhere that you can check out, really. I mean, we basically have like 4 or 5 cities, but you can also check out Eskişehir because it's a university city, so all the students are there, and Eskişehir is like very niche in a way. So those might be your cities, but it also depends on your, genre and what kind of music you're doing and who are you targeting and aiming. But those are like our, I think, most basic cities that could play.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Eskişehir was recommended to me, so I will definitely check that out. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the budgets are, again, it's not very high, but if you're someone who'd be up for a door deal, for example, they're always open to trying out new possibilities. It counts for every city. I mean, in Istanbul, it's a bit easier to get paid, a flat fee. But for other cities, like in Izmir, there's a new community that's coming. It's called Monk Community, from Telenius Monk, actually. And they're building this great venue. They have a tattoo studio, but that venue is going to go so well because one of my friends is doing it, actually. I'm like super proud of them. They're going to host international artists, for example. But the venues, these kind of venues, the small ones also start really like with tiny steps. So you've got to give them time and you have to be like more engaged, I think. You can say, okay, I'm good with a door deal. Let's just do it so that there's kind of a connection that we build there. It's a long answer, sorry.
No, thank you. There was another question, maybe?
What about the physical formats in Turkey? How many independent labels do you have in the country?
Actually, our independent labels are bigger than the major ones, like, I mean, Sony and Universal, etc. So we have more independent labels who work with the biggest acts than the major ones. Even those major ones started signing tinier acts because they wanted to have like subdivisions and they wanted to invest in independent side of it too. But what do you mean? I mean,
What is the most selling formats? Vinyls or CDs or DVDs?
It's DSPs. I mean, it doesn't give you much money, but I mean, I'm sad to say that Spotify is the biggest one in Turkey right now, and it has the most number for subscriptions. Then follows Apple Music and YouTube Music. I mean, YouTube is really huge in Turkey because, I mean, obviously YouTube Music is free if you're subscribed there, but it's like the main radio platform even for people, so they do type a lot of stuff there, so the usage of YouTube is actually a great data for us too. I mean, obviously vinyl sell, but it's for mostly collectors, tastemakers, again, like what happens here as well. And CDs,
That's what you're into, no?
They don't really exist anymore. I mean, obviously, like you could find great record stores and like great labels, like Gülbaba, for example. They've been around in this game for years. Gülbaba is at Womex, representing one of the most popular Turkish musicians. We've got Melike Şahin, for example, but they also bring Dubioza Collective too, for example. So like they also promote, they do record label, they actually export music too, but yeah, it depends on your niche and whatever you're looking for. But the major one is obviously the DSPs.
Yeah, but are there like small crazy collectives, who just put out vinyl for the sake of it and for the?
I mean, obviously, yes. Like everywhere, we have these crazy people, and we actually. I say crazy because it's financially not very sustainable, as we all know. But I mean, don't we all just love it? So we just do it for the sake of music and for just because we love it. So that's why I keep saying crazy. I say crazy to myself as well. Like, why are you involved within this industry that is kind of pushing you all the time, and where there's a lot of sexism and gatekeeping and ageism and all that sorts, you know? So we try to fight with this. We try to bring back the, active listening and musicking into our lives again. Like whatever the hell, this chill vibe and background music and all those playlists, it's just not working out for us anymore. But it took so many years for us to figure this out finally. And we're here. But there's this majority who's still supposed to be catching up with us. That's what I meant.
Great, perhaps great final words for this talk, because our time is running out, and we're gonna continue with Boyan for the next talk. If you guys, girls, have any questions, I guess Duygu will be here and you can ask her. And now let's take a short break, like 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then see you back again here.